And now we're recording. All right. So welcome everybody to week 3 of the second PEMF certification course. We're just finishing up the test and the certification document and letter for the first course. And Sherry did an amazing job at putting a certificate together that's going to be something you're going to want to frame after you take the test, and you have to get at least 36 of 40 right. I took the test and I got 2 wrong. And I made the test. No, actually, Sherry and Sam made most of the test. I put in my little 2 cents. And there were a couple of questions that were a little bit tricky. I'm not a very good test taker anyway, so I just read one of them completely wrong, and then in the other one I misunderstood it. But it'll tell you what your score is, and you can retake the test if you want. It'll tell you what the correct answer was too. So we want everybody to really know all the answers and be 100% anyway. So the test isn't designed to give you, to flunk you. It's designed to help you pass and get some more information, and it's kind of fun. So, and then we have a beautiful certificate that we're going to send you, and you'll get an electronic version, but then we're going to print it out on nice paper that you'll want to actually, I think you'll want to frame. Let's see if I can hold one up and show it to you. Can you see that? That's Renee Burchell's. I don't think she's seen that. What do you think of that? That looks pretty nice, huh? I know. I thought Sherry spends a lot of time doing stuff like that. You wouldn't believe how many revisions and versions and, oh, should I make it big? The tree bigger, the smaller, lighter, darker? You know, she really fools around with it a lot and makes sure it's just right. So we're really happy with it. It's nice to be able to give you something that you'll be able to hold on to and hopefully, put it in a frame and put it on the wall and help you remember. Also, the portal is really, we're adding more and more stuff every day, and a lot of the bonus stuff that we're doing in the marketing class, we're also going to put into the bonus section in the portal. So does everybody know what the portal is? I know, Veronica, you're an old pro. Is that Mark sitting back there? Oh, you're muted.
I can't unmute. There you are. Hi, John.
Hi.
John, the only thing I need to know, I need the portal information on the marketing part. I keep losing that for some reason to do review.
Okay, I'll resend it to you tonight after the thing. Yeah, probably the best thing is to start a file. Hi, Elizabeth. In your email program, just start a file for DPA, and as things come in, just put everything in there. Then when you have anything, just go ahead and you can search through that. One thing that has been a common issue is that people are having a hard time with the password. I know I have a hard time with the password, so I only copy and paste that password in there. Had several people that were having problems that were typing it in, and for some reason, those passwords are really finicky. So it's best to copy and paste that. And if you need help with that getting on, then let me know. But I think everybody here is doing really well at going through. Do you guys see the progress bar at the bottom? There's a little progress bar. And it's every time you watch a video, you get farther and farther, and so we can see that progress bar, and we can see when people are moving along or not on it at all. And the people that are not on it at all, there's only a couple in both classes. I think there's one or two. And so if you need help getting on, by all means, let me know. I can walk you through. We can do a Zoom, and I can see your thing and just help you all the way through it, because it's really important that you guys get on that and watch these things all the way through, and rewatch them if you want. The other thing is that what I've been able to find is that on my phone you can download the Google Drive, and that's a great way to save some of these files on your phone and in your computer. And you are able to get on the portal on your phone. And so if you're out and you want to watch a video, or, like, what did they say on the injuries or abs or whatever, and you want to pull it up, you should try to do that. It's always best to do it when you're in your computer, so you can make sure you get through and all that. And I think you can save the password. So bookmark the page and save the password. All right, it looks like we got a bunch of people signed on. So we're going to go ahead and start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 videos that we'll go through, and we'll watch the videos, and we will then after each video we'll have a little conversation and any questions. Teresa, you've been using the portal? Yes, very good. And then any questions, we'll answer them right then and there. What I'm going to try to do is that I believe I found a way that I can mute my microphone here while I'm playing it by playing the system. So I'm going to try to do that. And when I turn on the video, if you guys see that the sound went away, or or you can't see it, then I want I don't know, Veronica, could you put me in the chat that you can't see it, or can I make that your responsibility to just let me know if when I mute my microphone and my video, if you can all of a sudden stop seeing the video or stop hearing the video, let me know. Just put it in the chat.
Okay.
And then I'll know, oh, okay, I got to put it back on. Because I know it's Sherry was telling me, oh, you got to get out of the screen because you're distracting. Everybody's watching you sitting there, like I'm watching them sitting there, So I think it's best to mute yourself. It's best to mute yourself and to stop doing your video, because this is being videoed and other people are going to be watching it forever, so if something happens in the background or you say something in the background, this is my one example of why you should mute yourself on conference calls and group meetings like this. I was with I think it was with IBM, and we were always on these big conference calls, and we were in this conference room, and usually the conference rooms are muted, but for whatever reason, this guy came in late, and we had been having a group conversation, and the conference call was not muted, and he started making fun of the president of our division who was doing a presentation, and he was like mimicking him and just like, saying really rude stuff. And the divisional vice president bursts into the room. You can hear in the background of the president going like, who is that guy? And they can tell what where it's coming from. And they're like, yeah, it's in conference room 12, somebody bursts into the room, mutes the thing, goes, you're fired. And he packed his stuff and left right then and there. So I'm like, ooh, I'm never saying anything. So even if you think you're muted, sometimes you're not. So, all right, with that story, I am going to share my screen, and I'm going to play the first one, which is Samantha doing a demonstration on abs. And of course, abs and psoas go hand in hand. I know the importance of the psoas muscle because right now I have a pulled psoas muscle that is just killing me. Oh my God, it's horrible. And so I can really sympathize with these horses that have pulled psoas muscles. So I am gonna share my screen and share my computer sound and bring up the abs video.
Another add-on I would like to show you is the abdominal area. Obviously Zoe is not tight or sore in her abs. She's not working very hard. But some horses you'll notice are very sucked up and tight in their abs in this area. Or possibly when you're working in this psoas position, you'll be getting a ton of reaction here, maybe even kicking and angry about that because it's uncomfortable. So you can add another position. It's not very easy for you. It's kind of a workout for you. And slide down here and spend a minimum of 2 minutes like this. If I would turn it up to get a little more pulsing, which I'll do, because she doesn't have much going on there. Some of them are going to be really sensitive here, so be careful. It's also good, of course, for any gut issues that the horses may be having. So that's another good one.
All right. Stop share. All right, so that's the abdominal. It's kind of the sister to the psoas, and what you'll find is that most people or most horses that have pretty sore psoas muscles also will have abdominal muscles. It's one of those add-ons that we check. Really, it's easy just to, as you're doing the psoas, just to reach under there and just check and see if you're getting any kind of pulsing. If I don't feel any pulsing going on when I just check it, then I generally do not spend time on there. And because the abdominals will kind of be one of those things that either be sore or not. Now, if there's any known issues like a sore psoas muscle, you for sure want to treat it 2 minutes or more. If they have gut issues like that you think they may have, you know, any kind of ulcers or anything like that, or colicky or anything like that, then that is a really good thing to use. And it's pretty hard physically because you really got to hold it underneath there, and you got to hold that loop all the way underneath. But it can be a really great treatment area for those horses that really need it. So that's the abdominal. I'm going to full screen. All right. Now the next one is the back and the SI.
So I want to mention some add-ons that you can incorporate into your full body protocol that I don't do every time, but that you can have in your toolbox for when you feel guided to. One of them is targeting the SI area, lumbar area, top of the psoas from the top of the body, where you can take these loops, stacked. You can place them here. In my routine, if I were going to do this, it usually would be after I've done the psoas area. Notice I have a very low intensity. For whatever reason, it tends to be very sensitive, and they don't usually appreciate a strong pulse there. Just a little tiny one. Now in this placement, I have the loops themselves actually stacked over that sacroiliac joint, remembering that the intensity is actually strongest within this loop along the loops themselves. So this is the weakest point. As we get closer to the loops, it gets a little stronger. I'm always trying to send the more strong point into the joint. So this is a really good one also for just warming up the top line. Horses that are kind of locked in this area, just really getting that warmed up and feeling good. You can definitely do that farther up the back if you see fit. If you find that they're really sore up in this area, tight and rigid in that area. And you can also do it farther back on the pelvis. I have it placed pretty evenly right between the two hip joints. So those are two really good add-ons, or excuse me, three really good positions you can have to use when you see that they could use some extra attention there. So I want to mention some add-ons that you can.
All right. So that was the back. Nope, Zoom can't detect sound from my microphone. Oh, can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me now? Yep, you can hear me now. Veronica, you can hear me? All right, good. So now, do you guys, it keeps telling me that they can't hear me. I keep getting this sign that says you can't hear me.
You sound good, John.
I do. Okay, good. So do you guys know the difference between, like, what is the full strength of the loop? Because we kind of went over this a little bit last time, but the loop, if you look at that loop, you know, it's a great big loop, and it can be either in a circle or you can make it really long and narrow. The maximum strength for the loop in any PMF device is a perfect circle. So if you're wanting to maximize the strength of the loop, make sure it's nice and round. And of course, if both loops are next to each other, are overlapping each other, that's double the strength. If you separate them, then it becomes one, and there is a magnetic field in between them. And if you turn the loop so that it's like, you know, if you just hang it naturally, it'll come and it'll hang like this. If you turn it, it'll actually be canceling each other out because they're two magnetic fields. If you picture two batteries, I had to replace the battery in my my car thing, which I broke. Just like I couldn't, but it's got these two little batteries here. And the two batteries are together, and the positive and negatives are opposite each other, so that they create a magnetic field in between those two batteries. That's what this is doing. It's creating a magnetic field in between. So there's a magnetic field all the way through that. If you flip it, the polarities then cancel each other out, and then you will be not getting anything. And you can feel this on yourself if you're using the rings or the paddles or whatever, and you get them turned around, and all of a sudden the pulsing goes away. So that's really important to know when you're pulsing a horse and you're doing these add-ons. The other thing is, like, when do you do an add-on? The first thing that you want to do is the full body treatment. The full body treatment really in itself, in the protocol in itself, really covers as much of the horse as you really need to do. It really stimulates the full lymphatic system, really stimulates, oxygenates the blood, and it really gets the whole internal organs of the horse warmed up and charged. And we've developed these add-ons really as a result of, needing to have something more that we want to be able to do for specific areas. Like, we just didn't feel like we got the shoulder enough. So the whole idea in these add-ons really are, these are techniques that that we've developed that are good to target specific areas for specific reasons, not to be replaced with the full body protocol by any means. You always want to do the full body protocol. And we get this question a lot, especially with new people, of, well, my client doesn't want to pay for the full thing. Should I just do a spot treatment? And the answer to that is definitely no, because you do not want to do spot treatments. And the story, the reason why I learned this the hard way is because when I first started treating people or treating horses and stuff, I'd go to the racetrack and I would treat the horses, and then I would invariably, they would pull me into the jockey's room and they would say, God, the jockeys are sore too, so, can you treat them? And they're always, they've only got like a couple minutes in between races, so that they have no time. And so they'd be like, oh, my shoulders are killing me, just do my shoulders. So I would go and treat their shoulders, and then they would come back after the race, and I'd be like, well, how are your shoulders? And they'd be like, oh, my shoulders are great, but now my back is killing me. What did you do to my back? Well, the brain only can process whatever soreness is the worst or the most severe. And so it's focusing in on what's really sore. Well, if you take care of that, then it goes to what's the next thing that's sore. And so if you don't do the full body, first off, you don't get benefit of improving the immune system, increasing the lymphatic system, oxygenating the blood, and all the real sustained wellnesses. You don't accelerate the healing for their overall body, 72 hours. So you lose all of those benefits. But more importantly is that you're always going to be chasing after the next severest soreness. And even if your horse just has like a torn suspensory, you want to do the full body treatments at least every 72 hours in order to sustain the accelerated healing of the body. But more importantly, you also want to do the full body because people and horses and I can tell you from right now first experience, my psoas is killing me, but the other side of my body is starting to hurt too, because you overcompensate and you start borrowing from the other areas of your body that aren't sore, and then those become sore. And you'll typically see horses in recovery that when they get back into training or get back into light work, or just getting out of the stall, they'll just go berserk. They'll blow up. We had a horse to do this like 3 times. And he had a suspensory, and then he would be on stall rest. And then we'd like, okay, now you can start hand walking him. We'd start taking him out, hand walking him, and he would just explode, get loose, run around the pasture for like, 15 minutes like a crazy horse, come back in, and the counter side of the shoulder would be injured, and he'd pull a muscle in that shoulder because he'd been standing on it for a couple of weeks or 2 months or whatever, and really gotten that shoulder just really depleted and tired and all that, and then went out and went crazy, and then he pulled a compensatory muscle. And so when you treat the whole body, especially in a horse in rehab, you're really balancing out that whole body, and you're making sure that their whole body is really feeling good and is ready to come back, just like the injury. And so those are the secondary reason that you want to be doing that. And you really need to point that out with the clients because they'll tend to just say, oh, just do the suspensory. So that's why you really want to do the full body in addition to these add-ons. So we've done the abs and we've done the back, and now we're going to go to the front leg.
All right, guys, I'm going to go over.
I never know if I should do the share first or the video first. So.
Legs. If you are using a MagnaWave or Equipulse machine, you can.
Starting over.
All right, guys, I'm going to go over legs. If you are using a MagnaWave or Equipulse machine, you can treat your small butterfly loops pretty much the same as I'm using these small loops from the Pulse Center's machine. When doing the legs, it's important to note that they definitely take a higher intensity than the rest of the body. So when I start, I turn up the intensity to a pretty good pulse, like about there. If you can hear, it's tick, 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 tick. I'll take the loops, and for regular maintenance, I'm going to be working on the knees, cannon bone and tendons, and fetlock joint, sometimes the hoof. There's no reason why you can't work up the forearm, and in the case of the hind end, the gaskin. It's just a matter of figuring out what's a priority for basic maintenance. If you're just trying to reduce swelling, increase circulation and that sort of thing on a performance horse, that would be what I do, are these 3 spots. So I'm going to hold the loops butterflied around the knee like this. I'm going to check in with my horse, make sure that they're okay with that. Then I'm going to turn the intensity up within their comfort zone. As you can see, it's pretty strong. And then I'll either hold them for a minimum of 2 minutes, or I'll Velcro them. If I Velcro them, always going to Velcro with a little tail that I can very quickly just pull off. Really, if there was a problem, I have the Velcro so loosely connected that if she were to do anything, it would really just come undone. So that's what I would do for that spot. If I knew that she had a knee problem, arthritis, an injury of some sort, or I just wanted to spend more time on her legs, I would spend at least 2 minutes this way, and then another 2 or more this way. It's just another way to access the joint. Remember, joints are a lot of dense tissue, bone, a lot to get through. So you do need a stronger intensity, and sometimes coming from different angles just allows a better chance of reaching inside the joint. So after spending some time there, I would just slide this down onto the cannon bone where I'm targeting the tendons and ligaments, the suspensory ligament, which is commonly injured in performance horses. If she had an injury, or an injury was brewing and she has pain, maybe bad arthritis, something like that, she would not tolerate this strong of an intensity. So if, say, I slid down from her knee to here, and then she really reacted, started picking up her leg and that sort of thing, that would indicate to me that something in here was sore. So just bear that in mind. You, of course, can spend some time with it coming from this way. It doesn't sit as nicely. But for general maintenance, I pretty much never do that. It's your call. So after a minimum of 2 minutes there, I'm going to slide down to the fetlock joint. Same goes there as it does for the rest of the leg. You can go from this angle, or anything in between. Excuse me, Oaks. Go ahead. Now, for the foot, that's going to require the most intensity to get through that hoof wall. So again, you can hold it around the foot like so, or you can Velcro it. In this case, I'm going to Velcro it with a little tail there. And you can come at the foot from all different angles. Now, I'm going to turn it up higher. Good. Out of here, ugly. For horses that have an abscess, or you suspect there's an abscess brewing, we've seen outstanding results in 2 to 3 sessions of putting this on the foot. If you know where the abscess is coming from, targeting more that spot, but if not, just spending every couple of minutes rotating it around that foot. It's incredible. Some people have actually seen abscesses pop in front of their eyes, which is pretty neat. So you can come at it from this way, butterflied, with any part of the leg. You can also, if you know of a specific injury you're trying to pinpoint, you can double these, stack them, and come from one side. What that will do is just make it more intense from that one direction, versus when they're in between the magnetic fields. Those two magnetic fields are working together to reach deeper. So it's just a different way of reaching into the foot. You can use the medium, if you're using pull centers equipment, you can use the medium-sized loops in their legs, of course. Realize that the smaller that loop, the smaller the magnetic field, the more focused and direct the delivery will be. So if you have a specific injury or an abscess or something like that, you definitely would, it'd be ideal to use the smallest ones you have, but the mediums will work just as well, or will work, pretty comparably. So that's how I would go about the front leg.
All right, so that's the front leg. Are we having any questions? Do you guys have any questions about this? Does anybody out there have the X1? Do you guys have the X1 or the double X? And is there any interest in doing the body and the legs at the same time? Jolene, you have the double X, and Whitney has the X1. Okay, so Whitney, you are interested in doing the legs and the body at the same time. Now, there's a bunch of distinctions that are made, but it's really important to have, even if you just have one system. If you have the X1, you can put the loops on from one direction, and then you can put it on from the other direction, so it's completely surrounding it. So you put the small loops on, and then you put the medium loops on over it. That completely surrounds it. That is probably the most effective way, really, to surround a joint. That is really a phenomenal way to get to a joint or a hoof. So you have the legs, the loops coming out from, or the leads coming out from each side of the loop.
Accessory overlap.
And that's only if you have the X1. If you have the double X, you cannot do that. The double X, you can't put the two magnetic fields anywhere within 4 inches of each other, or they'll cancel out. They're two completely different magnetic fields, so you have to keep them separate. And if you have the double X, you can really have 2 treatments going on at the same time and optimizing each one, because the legs do take a lot more energy than the body does. So you'll want to dial those in separately. If you have the X1 and you want to do that, and I'm not sure if it's even being taught anymore, but I regularly did 2 treatments at one time, And so I would start on the shoulders, and then I would get the front legs going, and I would start at the knee and the front legs, and then every 2 minutes I would move it down. And usually I would move it down like with my foot. So I'd start at the knee, go to the tendons and to the fetlock, and then after 2 minutes each one, I'd move it to the other front leg, and then I would go to the back. If you're going to do 2 at one time, you really want to start at the front. Otherwise, by the time you want to come around and do like the leg in the loop, if you haven't done the front legs already, you're still going to be working with one of the coils on the front legs when you want to do the leg in the loop. So it's better to start on the front legs first and then move to the back legs. The double X was designed really because of that very thing. I really wanted a machine where I could do that and have separately controlled loops. If you have the X1, you can still do that, but what you'll find is that you won't be getting nearly as much power into the legs as they probably would need to be, but it's still better than not doing the legs at all. So if you have an X1, it's still better to do it even though it's getting a lighter of intensity. And one thing that you want to remember when you're doing the legs is that it's the pulsing, it's not the power. It's the pulsing, and a lot of people just crank it up, and then the pulsing is really slow, okay? So if you think about it, if you're getting 1 beat per second, and you can then turn it down a little bit, so you're now getting 3 beats per second, that horse is getting 3 times the treatment in the same amount of time. It's getting 3 times the pulsing. So you've basically tripled the treatment time in that same time. And really, the legs are getting just at 3 beats per second, it's getting just as deep of a thing as 1 beat per second. The only time I'd really have it totally up is if you're looking for that abscess and you're really wanting to go deep into the hoof. And you're just not getting it. Otherwise, if you're up 3/4 of the maximum capacity, you're really doing you're getting all the way through the bones and everything. So other thing is, how do you tell where your horse is sore when you're doing their legs? So the best way you can really use this is very much of a diagnostic thing, because what you can do is you can start out at an intensity, and say you start out at half the intensity, you start out at the knees, and then you move the loops down the legs. So you suspect there's something going on in this front left leg, but you really want to try to narrow it down. You don't know if it's an abscess, you don't know if it's a tendon, you don't know whatever. So you start about half intensity, and you just slowly go down the leg, and you look for those spots where the horse goes like, ow. They'll react to the thing. Now, if you get all the way down and they don't react, I would go back up, and I would turn it up a little bit, and then start your way down. And then you just keep doing that until you're all the way, not all the way up, but pretty much all the way up, and you can go all the way up and down that leg, and you don't find anything. Most likely, even at half intensity, if you're looking for an injury and there's one there, you'll see it. You'll start to see it. And then you just kind of go back and forth with those loops, and you just go back and see exactly where it is on the leg that will give you that indication. Like, you'll find it. It'll be like, oh, there it is. So you go back up and like, okay, was it just like shooing a fly or something, or was it really that one spot? So you go back down, and you find it. Now, what happens when you find the spot? Okay, the intensity is already, if it's giving you a negative reaction, that reaction, it's already too high really to treat on that for comfortably. So what you want to do is just turn it down a little bit so they're not reacting, and then you want to go back to that spot and make sure the loop is right on that spot. Because remember, in the middle of the loop, the blank spot in the middle is not as intense as it right on the loop. The farther away you get away from the coil, the less intense it is. So you want to have that coil right on the spot, and then you want to stay on there at least a couple of minutes, and then start turning it up again until you get to that point where it goes ow again. As soon as you feel that ow, you turn it back down just a little bit so they're tolerating it, they're comfortable with it, and then you stay on it again. You keep doing that until you get to the point where you can turn it all the way up. As soon as you can turn it all the way up, like the rest of the leg, you don't get any difference in the rest of the leg, you know that spot has healed. And then you still want to give it probably another week or two of treatments before you know. If it's a severe enough injury, you want to give it another week or two. If it was just something that they whacked, you know, and was a you know, just a little bruise or whatever, you're not going to need that much time. But you will need some more time after it shows that it's really healed. So so that's how you tell if a horse is sore in a specific spot. And it works just as well on an abscess. So you do the exact same thing on the hoof, and you just start turning the small loop around. But with the hoof, you're going to probably need a little bit more intensity. But when you find that spot, you'll see a lot of times the abscess will be sending a pulsing thing all the way up the horse's legs. So you'll see this line pulsing up the horse, which is the nerve usually. And that nerve is, the magnetic field is following the path of pain. So it's following those pain, where the horse is feeling the pain, maybe even all the way right up into the shoulder. It's dramatic when you see it. You're like, wow, what is that? But that's the path of pain. And then you know, hey, I really found a spot. And then you just keep treating that until that abscess will pop. And then as soon as the abscess pops, you treat it a good couple more days, and you will have amazing results. Now, there's also the technology out there that has a pad that the horse stands on. There's Response Systems has a bigger pad that's maybe like a 3x5 rubber pad, and then like MagnaWave and Equipulse have these boots or pads that they can stand on. The problem with standing on a pad is it's all the field is coming from the bottom, and it's going up through the horse's hoof, and it does tend to go into a cone as it goes up. So you're going to be and it diminishes very rapidly as it goes through the horse's hoof. So Response Systems doesn't have very much intensity, so it's still good, but it's not nearly as effective as sending it from the outside in. The outside in can really reach and move around and really get the whole hoof. The bottom up is that you're going to be, so around the coronet band, you're probably not getting the whole hoof. You know, it's going, the PMF is going up, and it's kind of diminishing into a cone shape. So we just found that with them standing on a pad or a boot, can get nearly the treatment that they got with the small loops. And so if you have the small loops, I would still use that as your number one go-to thing. We're looking at, let's see, a question, how long should we spend on a foot to get an abscess to blow? That is a really, it's an individual question. I've been pretty successful, and the experiences I've had and people I've talked to have said that first treatment, usually if you treat a horse one day and you give it, I would say at least 30 minutes on that hoof, and you do it at pretty high intensity, and you do it make sure you're really covering that hoof. If you found the spot, you're for sure going to get something, unless it just depends on how deep it is. The closer it is to the surface, the quicker it's gonna pop. But most of the time, it's within the first day. Rarely do you have to go 2 or 3 days. But if you do, you just keep doing it, and it will then pop. And so there's a lot of different things that will judge that. First off, how deep is it into the hoof? Secondly, how far along is it? Like if it's a great big pocket of pus that's just ready to pop, as soon as you start going on it, it's going to find a way out. And then if it's just starting, if it's just a bruise, it could take a while. So, and a while, I'm usually meaning like 3 days. If you're not seeing it within 3 days, I'd be surprised. So, so there's a lot of variables on that, but the one good thing is that you will definitely see some results. You really should be able to see if you follow that protocol. You should be able to see the spot that's bothering them, and then it's just a question of staying on it. Now, I'm not sure which week it is. It might be next week. We have Christina Cooper talking about how to do injuries and traumatic injuries, and she has a treatment protocol that is phenomenal. She spends like 90 minutes on her spot. I don't want to steal her thunder and give away too much of that because we really want you to watch that week. But I'm pretty sure it's next week. But she has a great testimonial about how she healed her back and how she really took a scientific viewpoint at really uncovering the maximum way to treat injuries and get just phenomenal results. And this is really, it's totally groundbreaking stuff, because up until, really not too long ago, people were still saying, oh, you can only do PMF for 8 minutes. If you do it for more than 4 minutes, you got to wait a whole day. And they were saying all kinds of stuff like that, just not true at all, and not backed up by science, not backed up by our experience. What we found is the more you do, the faster the results you get. So, did I answer the question about the X1? We have not done an actual video of how to do two treatments, 2 loops at the same time. But basically, it's the same thing. You just start on the shoulders, and then as soon as you get the shoulders to where they're comfortable and you can step away, you grab the smaller medium loops and you put it Velcro it onto the knee. And then every 2 minutes, I usually do it like right before I'm going to move the big loops, I would move the leg loops. And you go 3 minutes on the knee, 3 minutes on the suspensory, 3 minutes on the pastern or the fetlock. And then you got to pick your times when you move it. But and it is definitely a challenge to get it down. And I wouldn't try doing it if you're brand new at it. You really need to be very comfortable and very smooth with doing the full body treatment, just 1 loop at a time. But it's like everything else. You just practice a little bit, and pretty soon you'll be amazed. So if you can get it, though, you can do a whole body in 30 minutes, and you can give a horse a tremendous treatment in 30 minutes. And if you have the double X, then you can really optimize that and get the best for each place. Another thing that I do that and this is something that actually Laura Mangioli came about, and if you have the double X is the best. You can do it with the X1, but like my mare, she really had sore shoulders. So what I would do is I would start treating her shoulders, and then soon as I got the large loops beyond her shoulders, I would throw a large loop over her head and do the necklace thing. And I would just keep that on while I did the whole rest of the body. And then she would just get the absolute most on her shoulders that she could. Hey, and Sherry's with us. Hi, Sherry. It looks like you're driving. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you have the 2 accessories at one time, is that you can put it on that area that needs it the most and just let it go. And that is a great treatment. because most horses have that one spot that they're really, really kind of chronic on and need a lot more time. So if you could put 20 minutes onto their shoulders, for example, you'll see really great results. So, all right. So now we're going to go to the rear leg.
No, the X, the double X, is that the small one? Small box? Or they're talking about the big one?
It's like.
So I'm going to show you how to work on the rear leg. It's essentially the same as the front leg, but we have a different joint. Obviously, we have the hock here. So for this horse, if you have the pulse centers equipment, I might prefer using the medium loops on her hocks just to cover more area. At the moment, I have the small loops, so I'm just going to go with that. So I'm going to have the intensity turned up just like I did with the front leg, kind of to a medium pulse. I am going to hold them on her hock so I know that she's settled. I may not always just be crouched down if I don't know the horse very well, and I'm doing this kind of for video's sake. You may be standing more in this position to protect yourself. So once I know that she's accepting this loop being on her hock, and note, I prefer to use the loops in the direction to have the joint facing the direction that the leg joint goes. So I have this joint going back because the hock bends back. I have it facing forward in the front leg because the knee bends forward. So from here I'm going to Velcro it. You don't have to Velcro if you don't feel comfortable. I'm going to leave a little tail as always. I don't have them tightly together. There's a gap in between the loops to fit comfortably on the hock. And then I would leave it there for a minimum of 2 minutes. I find that with the hocks, for performance horses or those that have that have sore hocks, you can leave this on for an extended period of time while they're eating hay if they're tied and well behaved, and it does wonders. It definitely will reduce the amount that you need to inject the hocks. It might extend the period of time in between injections or eliminate your need for injections at all, because it's helping the body create fluid for itself, because that's what PEMF does, is it's helping the body do for itself what it needs. So after several minutes of it here, I might carry on normally for regular maintenance just to the cannon bone. You can also spend time coming from the side angle. It's just another way to reach into the joint. You can also, to really get into this opening of the joint here, you can stack them and come at it from this way, holding it or Velcroing it around the back of the hock if you wish with a longer Velcro. Just depending on how much you're trying to put into the hocks. But for normal, basic maintenance, I'm going to continue down, just down the leg. I'm going to place them on the cannon bone and tendons there. Spend several minutes, 2 minimum. Then move down to the fetlock joint and do the same for that. So again, basic maintenance, hock, cannon bone, fetlock joint, sometimes the foot, if they're prone to foot soreness or bruising, or they have had an abscess in the recent past or currently. But I'm going to also show you how I would address the stifle joint with these loops, which you absolutely, like with the front leg and the forearm, can work up the gaskin. But for the stifle joint using the small loops, I would recommend standing, but for the sake of the video, You can place the loops there, right in the opening, right in the crease of the joint, because that is your entryway there. You can have them stacked with the loops right in that crease. You can also butterfly them, but if using pull centers equipment, realize that this hinge is a dead zone, so you're going to want to hold these together and place it right in that entryway of the joint and turn up the intensity within their comfort level and targeting the stifle that way. If you're looking for soreness in the stifle while you're pulsing, you're going to want to place your hand on the flat spot of the stifle, on the inside of the stifle I should say, like this. And if they have soreness in the stifle, usually you'll see pulsing around it, but you'll also feel like a quarter size circle on that flat smooth part on the inside of their stifle. You'll feel a pulsing there. They also may react by kicking out or showing signs of discomfort that way. So that's how I would use the small or medium loops on the stifle. And I do want to mention, if I'm working on any of these joints and I know that there's a problem, that there's soreness or injury going on there, realize that all of the soft tissue and the connective tissue around the joint is affected by that too. So basic maintenance, I might not address things like the gaskin, all this stuff, but if they were sore around the hock or the stifle, I would definitely want to spend time pulsing these areas as well. And that's how I would go about the rear leg.
All right, so that's how to do the rear leg. Sherry just got home, and so I was getting the update on Oliver's baseball game. He is in Little League, and Tuesday nights, this is his first game. This Tuesday nights are his Little League Tuesdays and Thursdays, although they're all over the place, but most of the nights are Tuesday nights. So normally I would be there, be right by the side there and cheering him on. He played right field, and it looks like he got a hit too. So that was always, it's fun to see the little leaguers, you know, especially at that age. A bunch of little kids running around. He's 7, by the way, and so, you know, he's just starting out in that. He hit the ball, and he still doesn't quite figure out that he has to run. He hit the ball and was like no, run. So it's so funny seeing Samantha talk about the stifle joint, because when I first started, nobody did the stifle joint. Nobody even thought about the stifle joint. And I was at a 2-year-old sale, and there was a horse there that for sure had stifle issues. And I mean, the trainer said, she has stifle issues, and is there anything you can do for him? And I'm like, it wasn't even part of the protocol at all. I was completely missing it. And so I started treating the stifle joint. And at the time I had a MagnaWave. And so what I did is I would take the one single loop and I would twist it into it and then butterfly it. So it would twist it into a figure 8, and then I would fold it over so it was like a butterfly. And then I stuck it onto the stifle like she was doing with the pulse center loops. And that really just surrounded that stifle joint. And oh my God, that mare, it was this little chestnut mare. She reached out and kicked me like nobody's business. And so like you hit that joint, man, if they have a stifle issue, they will fire. It's almost involuntary. So you really have to be standing off the side of it. Do not be standing in the back, but be standing right off of their hip, and I would hold their hip up with the arm while I'm doing it with the other arm. So if they do try to kick, you're pushing away on the hip, and be very careful about that. And then you will absolutely feel that little quarter size spot on right on the inside of their stifle. It will be just popping along. And so like a little thing, a little spot like this, it will just like the quarters underneath their thing just popping away. And it was so funny when I made that discovery. I'm just like, God, it's like they got a little quarter under there. And so from then on, I would just made it as a part of my thing. And it's one of those things is like the stifle is either going to be sore or it's not. And so you put it on again on really slow as you're putting it on. And kind of like, okay, are they going to kick or not? And you get it on there. Yeah, okay, they're really not sore here. And so, but one of the things that we found was by doing the stifle and the hocks and the pasterns or fetlock joints too, you can really dramatically extend the time in between injections significantly. And this is a significant money saver. The vets don't like to hear about it because that is their bread and butter. That is where they make all the money, is doing these injections. But one of our great sponsored writers is Margie Engel, and her husband, Steve Engel, is a vet and probably one of the most well-respected known vets in the world. And they have said, so they have absolutely zero resistance to injecting. They don't like doing it, but it's not really a cost thing for them. They do whatever is best for the horse. And they don't like doing it, so they're always looking for ways to minimize it. But if a horse needs it, they do it. So for them, it was a really good test to see, is it really going to help? Are they going to be doing it less because they can or because they should? And they said that the differences between injecting before PMF and then while the horse is getting treated with PMF is just night and day. And they extended their injection periods, the time in between they would inject, significantly, like 6 months or more. They would get additional time before they would need to be injected, if at all. There were a large number of their horses that were going without injections and performing beautifully. And these were older horses that normally would be getting injected on a very tight schedule. So that's one of the things you really need to talk to your owner about. You really have to, though, position it as a benefit for them, but be careful that you are stepping on the vet's toes for sure. And but it's a big cost savings. And when you're looking at them trying to justify, the cost of paying you versus paying, a vet to do injections, there's a definite cost benefit analysis that you can go into that says, hey, this is not only great for the whole rest of the horse, but this is where you're going to significantly save on your vet bills. I had a owner of a large stable, racing stable, that they probably don't want me talking about it, but the racing people are really weird about using their name. But anyway, let's just say it's a 2-year-old consignor that if you went to the 2-year-old sales, they would be there and you would definitely know they're there. I mean, they are big. And he said that, so, and I just gave you, it's a he, not a she. So if you know about 2-year-old consignors, it's narrowing it down significantly. And if I told you they were Irish, then it would really narrow it down. But I don't want to give away who it is, but they said that after a year of owning the MagnaWave and doing treatments, that their vet bills were 30% of what they were the year before. So that's not a 30% savings. That's 30% of what they were. So if they were spending $100,000 on vet bills, they're now spending $30,000 on vet bills. And they just had one machine and one person dedicated to using that. And they, at any one point in time, would have 40 horses in their stable. So, all the horses weren't getting treated all the time, like some of the show barns could be. So significant savings. You really got to factor that into it. And their savings because their horses are feeling better and doing better. So that's the real benefit from the horse's perspective, is that they feel better, they're healthier, their immune system's better, their amniotic fluid is better, and so all the way around, they're just doing much better.
John,
Yes.
along with the vets and all that, I just wanted to also I just randomly started thinking about it, but horse insurance companies are actually covering PMF. I have one client that reached out to her insurance company and doesn't need a vet documentation, nothing, and they're covering 100% of her PMF.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
So that's something to think outside the box to come, if there is an injury and you need more sessions.
That's a great. Yeah. Now, is this like mortality insurance, or is this like just the health insurance that they get?
I think overall health insurance. The horse had an injury after Congress, and they've seen all the vets, and they couldn't figure out what it was. It ended up, we think, just being muscle. And so I've done 9 sessions now, and they were just going to go down to weekly, but due to insurance covering it, they're going to keep going 3 sessions a week. Fantastic. So something to think about for the clients that are kind of struggling for money if they do have health insurance for their horses, or the insurance for their horses.
Yeah, and that might be something to ask right up front, and as you're doing it, do you have insurance? Sometimes if they do have insurance, some of the decision making is kind of taken out of their they don't get as much say in that. It's like, oh, well, the insurance company says to do this. So it's a good thing to know. And so that is even more reason to ask that question. Do you have insurance? If you do, yes. Are you aware that this may be covered? Might be something you want to check into. Because, boy, yeah, you're absolutely right. If they can get covered in insurance, they're going to be a whole lot more likely to keep the coverage going. And, it's good for the insurance company, because the insurance company, they would much rather pay you a couple $100 than, a couple $1,000 than to pay you, a total loss. So, all right. So Whitney is asking, confirmed what I was doing, but would be interested at another time if needed be on using both hoops on legs. Okay. Yeah, we'll try to work that in there. So any more questions? You guys, don't be shy. Let's ask questions. We're at 10 after 8, and we have 2 more. So any questions? Unmute yourself if you do. Go right into the chat. All right. Well, let's start on so this next one is about injuries. And maybe I can, I'm always a little resistant on pulling something else up on my computer for fear of like stopping the thing, but I do want to find out, and we'll post it in the group when we have Christina Cooper coming on and talking about injuries. But here is our thing on injuries. It was hiding.
Okay, now I would like to talk about injuries. As you see, Zoe here has an injury. She recently cut herself and had to have stitches. It's been several days, actually about a week. The wound is definitely clotted and there's no bleeding going on. You do not want to pulse any wounds that are actively bleeding, as the PEMF will increase circulation when you're trying to stop the circulation in that area temporarily. So I'm going to show you how I would handle pulsing this, which is through the bandage. Notice you can absolutely pulse through the bandage. Now, if you're working on other injuries that the horse is being bandaged for, you want to make sure you're not pulsing over any heat-inducing topical medications, because this will just create more heat. So you could potentially irritate the skin. So if you're working with something like that, liniments, DMSO, sweats, you want to wash that off with soap and water before pulsing. She doesn't have anything like that, so we're going to just pulse through the bandage. You will definitely see a decrease in the time it takes for wounds to heal and close up. You'll see a reduction in proud flesh and all the stuff you're trying to avoid. It's very beneficial for wounds, helping them heal more efficiently so you don't get as much scarring. It's fabulous for wounds. And just reducing the inflammation, helping the horses feel better, a reduction in pain and all of that. So I do also want to mention that with any injury that you're pulsing a horse for, you want to not just pulse the localized area of injury. You want to incorporate full body with the localized treatment. I recommend in an ideal setting that you would treat the horse's full body, according to the full body protocol, a minimum of every 72 hours in conjunction with localized pulsing. Now that could mean pulsing every single day on the injury itself and every couple of days on the body and that injury. You could pulse the injury itself multiple times a day, realizing that more is definitely better. You cannot overpulse, especially when you're trying to heal an injury.
So just watching that video, I think there's two test questions in there, in that little video that I don't want to give away, I don't want to give it away. Don't want to, tip you off as to what questions there are. But yeah, you definitely want to wait until the injury is scabbed over, and that 72-hour time frame is the time that the pulsing will accelerate the healing. So those are two things to keep in mind as you take the test. Not that I want to, give you guys any unfair advantage, but we do want you to know what the important stuff is. So I've asked Sherry when Christina is coming on, but Christina has really done an amazing job at expanding everybody's understanding of how to treat injuries and wounds, and so that's a good one for you. So any questions? So just a quick update. Oliver's team did win, so looks like that was good. And Christina will be on April 2nd. Yay! Yay! So one of the things that we've done is we've reached out to people that have been really phenomenal in their respective niche or whatever, and Christina is one, and Kelly Lagarata with the pets is another. Kelly is at the end of I think she's week 7, but you definitely don't want to miss that one either. Kelly did just a phenomenal job in presenting how to treat dogs. And that's a business that has just, for everybody that's doing it, is doing phenomenally well. And love seeing dogs get treated. We treat our dogs, and we have people that do a great job with dogs. And it's so nice to see, like, the older dogs. I have a soft spot in my heart for older dogs, and these older dogs, they kind of incontinence issues and stuff like that, and you put them on the pad and let them treat for 30 minutes and stuff, and it's amazing how they respond. And it's a great business too, because you can put a dog on a mat and have really basically an unattended treatment protocol, and it's very, very similar in using the smaller medium loops on dogs, depending on how big they are, to what the protocol is for horses. And it's to me really funny because when I came up with the treatment protocol for horses, first off, it's always kind of just interesting to see people doing it the exact same way, which is great. But then to have that exact same treatment protocol adapted to the dogs and how it responded equally as well to the dogs is really just kind of mind-blowing. So,
John, can I say something?
Go ahead. You're unmuted.
Hello everybody. Hello. I caught the beginning of Oliver's game, and he had a line drive to third base, so that was pretty exciting. Anyway, I just wanted to mention to everyone that, John, did you talk about putting the manuals in the portal?
No, we haven't gotten to that yet.
The new? Okay. Because what I wanted to mention was Sam and I have been working away on recreating our new PMF training and manual, which not necessarily new, but expanded and adding we wanted to add that we couldn't before and stuff. And one of the things that we've added for both humans, horses, and we're going to be expanding this for dogs as well, is a section just called conditions. And first of all, we've already added the section that Sam and I worked with Christina Cooper to create, which John was just talking about with the wound and the wound healing and the injuries. And she has one case study in there so far on a horse named Gracie that I really suggest you all taking a look at. We have photos, and she also has a sheet, a section in there, guide to healing traumatic injury and wounds in horses, which it's for horses, but everything equally applies to any other living being that you are pulsing. And she is going to continue adding her case studies on there. She's actually done more case studies. She's just phenomenal with her research and her documentation. And I am welcoming everyone else to do the same. What our goal is with both the section on wound healing and injury and conditions, is that we have to be kind of an ever-evolving section of our PMF manual where we're all sharing our results, our case studies, our amazing success stories, studies that we have found that are really could give a lot of information, so that, as John had said before, the most beautiful thing of what we've done is created this community where then we all can stand on the backs of each other and show each other what's possible. And we're going to be doing this in the human section as well, and I'm really excited about that. So first off, I just want to encourage everyone to not only share your success story questions in our private community, but to also go ahead and share them either in our private community or email them to us, info@druglesspractitioneracademy.com, with as much documentation you have, photos, etc., so that we can then add this to the manual, so that we have a central place where we are, I'm going to have it alphabetical, because the one problem with groups, the Facebook groups, but the searches don't really work that great, and something gets lost and stuff. And so this way, it is my hope that we almost have like a little, PMF Bible of, conditions for horses, people, pets, that we can all turn to once again see what's possible. So I just wanted to share that. But in order for that to really work, everybody's really going to have to share their stuff, okay? And so I hope everybody will do that. The other thing that I wanted to just address is, Becky has a question, does anybody use the large loops putting the rear leg through them to get a deeper insight? Yes, absolutely.
think that's our
And
next video.
isn't that in our full body protocol now? Oh, is it in our next video? Oh, okay. Samantha has found that to be phenomenal for horses with stifle issues. As a matter of fact, Tommy John has a Grand Prix jumper that literally that one position turned this horse around. So yes. So and Elizabeth, I said, yeah, I feel it gets directly into the joint with the leg through the loop. The leg through the loop, do it. It is the best. It is the best, both in the front and the behind. It gets places that the loops do not get in other positions. So anyway, that was just what I wanted to for sure share. So.
Yeah, just adding on to that, we just uploaded all the practitioner manuals, the PMF manuals in the portal now. I set up a separate category for it. So there's 9 different manuals in there. Just a tremendous library of information that is available there. I would definitely encourage everybody to, if you can, print them out. The one thing that I've started using that people really should take advantage of is if you can take those manuals and create, if you don't already use Google Drive, create a Google Drive and load them into your Google Drive and put Google Drive on your phone. Then you can access those things from your phone anywhere you want. You can access them from any computer that you want, and it's not taking up memory on your hard drive or on your phone. So that is the absolute best way to use those. But you should try to print them out and put them into a notebook. And we did that when our jump starts. We would print them all out, and that would be part of our jump starts. And we found people use those things like, they carry them around with them. It's just if you have it printed out and put into a notebook or into a 3-ring binder, you can refer to things over and over again. And if you have a question, you're like, you'll find yourself going back to those documents all the time. And if you find something in there that you innovate or needs correction, or we've gone through it a lot. So, but we're still, I'm sure there's, could be something in there that needs correction or that you have questions on. Just send us off an email, because we really, the strength of this community is really not just on us, but it's on all of you. And the more that you guys share, then the better off we're going to be. So, so with that, let's, you guys are, Becky is asking the great question about getting the rear leg in the loop. So I'm going to do that one before we get too late. Now we're going to go to
I just answered.
The rear leg in the loop.
Another add-on I would like to show you is the rear leg in the loop. In the full body protocol, I show you that I pretty much always do the front leg in the loop. This one I do not do every time. If I have a horse that is on stall rest, rehabbing, that doesn't have a known stifle injury or anything going on in the stifle or hamstring or in this general area, I'm probably not going to do this. But for upper level performance horses, I pretty much always do the rear leg in the loop. There's just so many components that we're targeting that way, and they usually show a huge spike in their performance when I incorporate this. It's the same as the front leg in the loop in that if there's an issue, you just simply drop the loops and step away. I'm not tying this to the horse's body in any way whatsoever. So I will start by holding my loops like this to make it easier to get the foot in. I will just cautiously bring this up snug. I will take my hands and hold these two parts of the loop together and place those right in the entryway of that stifle joint, right in that crease. No, not up in the flank area, as that would be very ticklish and uncomfortable, and you would be missing the stifle joint itself. So you want to stay right in there, and then just pull this snug up along the hamstring. I am not getting very much pulsing, so I would like to turn it up. Unfortunately, in this position, you have to just set the loops down. I just leave them there, assuming the horse will just stand there, hopefully. And then I will go and turn it up. Just a little bit. If the horses move, just go with them. Usually they rest their hind leg like this and lean into the pulse. I even would like it a little bit stronger. I feel a pulse, but I like it a little bit more. There we go. So I'll let her just get situated. You can probably see a nice pulse there. And just because she's moving around, I'm not bothered, because I definitely want to push the limit on this area so I can really get a lot of intensity into that stifle joint here. I actually find this to be my preferred way of addressing a sore stifle. I find it to be more effective. I like that I'm targeting a lot of other soft tissue around the joint, as well as the lower hamstring.
Hi, Elsa.
All right, so there you have the rear leg in the loop. When Samantha developed that, at first I thought, God, you're crazy, you know, putting that rear leg in the loop there, and what are you doing? But when I saw the results that she was getting, really, it's amazing. And then when I started doing it and feeling the penetration that you can get into that hamstring really is better than the way you would normally do the hamstring. So Elizabeth says, feel like it's getting directly into the joint with the leg in the loop. Yeah, it really is, really right into that stifle joint. But keep in mind, that stifle joint sore, they're going to fire. You know, they're going to send that rear leg out. Make sure you're standing right off of that hip and not right behind it. So let's see, if there's something special you want to open that you can't, let me know. I'll be able to help you. Whitney, you need the publisher program to open those files. Some of those files are in publisher, some of them are not. Okay, what you can do is you can open them up and try to open them up into a PDF. If you do not have publisher, it's a Microsoft thing. You also might want to try to upload it into Google Drive and then open it using a Google Drive. So you would just take the file and upload it from right into Google Drive. So don't open it. So you download it from the portal onto your computer. Don't open it. And then go to Google Drive and click on the upload file, and then go and grab that file and then upload it. And then when you open it for the first time, Google Drive will ask you what folder you want, or what file do you want what program you want to open the file with. And I'm not sure what Google program that you would use But if they suggest a program for you, I would use that. And but the publisher, it makes it so easy to edit. It's ridiculous. So it's well worth the investment to get publisher if you have the other Microsoft Suites things. Otherwise, I just go to Google. I'm becoming more and more of a Google person. So, so what other questions do you guys have? What I'd really like to know is, you know, what is your successes in using these different add-ons? Have you been using them? Did you know about them? You know, can you see using them in your practice? So we've basically gone through all of our videos on add-ons, and if we want, we can. We basically have about a half hour left, and the last hour was really designed to be really kind of a question answer type thing. So if you want, I can unmute everybody or unmute them yourselves. And you know, if we have questions, we can we'll answer them. If you guys don't have more questions, then we can wrap this up and get out of here a little early. It's completely up to you. Any questions?
Must be a low energy night.
Well, it is for me. My leg is killing me.
Get on.
John, I know someone who has a good Pemf machine that can help you out in California.
Yeah, I got my pro. I got my pro sitting right here. Yeah, I'll be right out there. But I got the pro sitting right here, right next to me, and I'm sitting on the square pad. And I've been
using the loops.
And I've been using the old rings there. So I've been probably put like 10 hours on it in the last couple of days.
Ah. You have any suggestions, Doc?
I think he's got a good handle on it. Hey, John.
Hi, Mark.
Good evening. I wanted to see if you could comment briefly on the hierarchy that exists when it comes to generating money from a horse owner. There's equine chiropractors, and there's a guy named Butch Cassidy that roams these parts, and people swear by him. But I want everybody here to understand that that's a very, very narrow scope of practice as it relates to the overall health and well-being of the horses. And
you're talking about chiropractors?
Yes. That's a very narrow scope. And, you know, they use their ropes and their pulleys, and they can adjust the neck. And I think that's about it, really. But understand that as a PEMF practitioner, that you work at a much more fundamental level, and it's pretty easy to argue that those dollars are some of the most important spent.
Well, I've had many people comment that they can't really feel much of a difference after a chiropractor does the work, where they can feel a huge difference after a PMF treatment. But the two really kind of go hand in hand. A lot of chiropractors actually will use PMF or go with. So it really, you'll find from a chiropractor standpoint, if you partner up with them, that if you treat the horse before they do the adjustment, they adjust like butter. If you do the treatment, one of the side effects that chiropractors have about when adjusting a horse is that there is a period after the adjustment. It can be a couple days where the horse is a bit stiff from the adjustment, and there's a recovery period. If you do PMF after, that recovery period is almost non-existent, you know, if at all. So the recovery period goes away, and the adjustment. Now, this is the same with people too, is that you'll find many chiropractors, they're kind of split. Do you do the PMF before, or you do it after? If you do it before, it makes treatment easier. If you do it after, it makes treatment hold longer. if you make the muscles, though, so there's, I used to know this number exactly, but there's like 200 or so bones in a horse. There's 700 muscles in a horse. And, you know, the chiropractor can only adjust bones. They don't do anything soft tissue. So if you have a soft tissue injury and you're trying to treat it by making an adjustment to the skeletal system, you're just barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah.
Very narrow scope.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
They have a very, you're like, they have a very narrow scope. They, you know, it's effective for what it does, but you'll find that I would rather partner up with a horse chiropractor than a vet, because a chiropractor, first off, they'll only adjust a horse maybe at the most once a month. If they do it any more than that, that's not really good. Most will say that they can only do once a month. So what you'll find is if you can partner up with them, they'll go, yeah, this horse is really sore. I adjusted it. It's going to need some treatments, and could be a really good source of referrals.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thank you,
John. But what I think Mark was addressing was the fact that perhaps money spent on PEMF could be better money spent than on chiropractic. Now, we don't ever want to bash another modality. You know, we all want to work hand in hand to the best of the ability, and we all say it's an incredible complementary therapy. But I think you're absolutely right, Mark. I don't know. In our time in the competitive horse world, I don't think there's anything as versatile as PEMF. Anything that can literally help from wound healing to performance enhancement to senior horses to metabolic issues to immunity to energy. I mean, it really it's like it's one of the 5 pillars of health.
Yes.
You know. So
yes.
it's,
Well, that's one.
It is. And that's people, and that's part of an education process. I think people understand, and the 5 pillars of health, I think we talk in the manual, and we talk more about this in the human side of it, but it is rest, exercise, nutrition, hydration, is it hydration, and PEMF. And
I thought isn't cookies in there somewhere?
yeah, in John's world, there are cookies in there somewhere. Well, that's the nutrition, honey. I don't know.
I don't know.
But
I know that the cookies.
But
The milk.
what I just want to mention is until we got into this whole crazy thing called PEMF, I had never thought of the Earth's magnetic field, and that I literally need that's what's providing the energy for my body to be alive. I had never even comprehended it to be. I just don't even think I've ever I thought about it. I mean, John's a Reiki master. We know about energy and all that, but I really had never understood that concept of the relationship to our bodies and to the magnetic and how important it is. And there's a really wonderful article on that I have shared in our PEMF, our private community, that I'll share again, that really talks about what happens when people are taken away from the Earth's magnetic field. And as we know, one of the first times that it was realized was when the Russians sent a guy to orbit the Earth, and he came back nearly dead, and ended up dying early aging syndrome and so forth. There's also a wonderful quote and video in both our private group and in our manual from Dr. Magda Havas on PEMF does not treat any specific condition. It stimulates the body's own self-healing, self-regulating capabilities. I tell people, memorize that. That is probably one of the most important things that you can know about this and share with people, because it heals and it helps with overall wellness at such a basic life level. You know, again, people don't go around thinking about their cells. They don't think about the fact that a living being is really a community of cells. Each living being is a community of cells, and it is the health of those cells that creates the health of the being. Now, if you listen at all, I'm an absolute huge fan of Dr. Bruce Lipton. I don't know if anybody else follows him. He just did that wonderful Heal documentary. He's the founder of epigenetics, and he goes so far to say as literally it's the environment of the cell. And literally that's that connection between our own bodies, between the fear and literally our cells not thinking they're in a healthy environment that triggers illness and things. If you think about, we talked about, I think it was last week, about the psoas muscle and how that's the muscle of the soul and things like that. Horses are you know, prey animals. Their whole beings are fight and flight. And so if you think about PEMF just harmonizing their system, you know, think of the unnatural lives that show horses of every discipline. So few of them even get out to pasture anymore. So few of them even get time off. I mean, we used to be in the eventing world where horses were off, you know, from November to February. Now they're eventing long. The show season, we're not as familiar with the Western disciplines, but hunter jumper, boy, if they get a week off, they're lucky. And many of the horses that come from Europe, they've never been turned out. They don't even get turned out. They're too afraid to be turned out. So I know I'm making this bigger, but I think it's all really important stuff to share with people. You're absolutely right, Mark. They are dollars so well spent. But it's like, once you start thinking about it and talking about it, it's in one way at such a basic level, but it's just so much more. When you think of, you know, we always say the 4 basics in the horse world are, you know, improve performance, relieve pain, accelerate healing, and reduce recovery time. Those are the big 4. But it goes so much on that when you go into the overall well-being of the horse and the immunity. These horses are traveling all over the place you know, and being bombarded by different environments. They're not even getting to go out into the pasture and lay on the earth. You know, what do we know? That part of the reason humans have so many chronic disease now is we're walking around in shoes. We're driving around in cars. We're in buildings. 99% of people are not gardening even with bare hands or walking barefooters, much less sleeping on the earth. And so unfortunately, it's the same thing with the horses now. They are living such an unnatural life. And it is true that the PEMF can at least help create some of that harmonization and normalcy. Absolutely. And it was funny because, you know, we spent some time in the racehorse world, really not that much. John went to the thoroughbred sales, and that's where he really, you know, put together our protocols and stuff. And it's kind of like this, you know, we glamorize, you know, like the racehorse world. And then when you really get in there, we talk about the Lasix and all this stuff they do to the horses. It's just. And if I let myself stop and think about it, even in the hunter jumper world, we just learned last week that there are lace barrel horses now. I was amazed at that. And it just gives you, at least we feel like we're helping, you know, we're at least doing something real and true that we know helps them, makes a difference, if, you know, for that hour and as long as the results last. Because I don't know, I made it way longer, Mark. You were making such a good point, but,
Mark,
but
Mark,
it
Mark
is
wanted-
true.
Very well
I think
spoken.
Mark wanted to say something. Yeah, as you're going.
Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
Let's see. What was I going to say?
He forgot what he was going to say. I know
Oh,
you had
you
like
know-
something.
I'm
that you wanted-
sorry. I'm sorry. I just got talking.
No, no,
I'm
no, no,
sorry.
No. I've been a chiropractor using chiropractic modalities for over 40 years. And I can tell you that the PEMF, it's something that is unparalleled. And you link the PEMF with mechanical work like massage therapy, which is vital, and, kinetics, working with exercise to improve joint relationships, to strengthen joint relationships. When you work PEMF at this fundamental level, it really helps everything. And I think in a nutshell, that is a great summary. It helps everything.
Yep.
Yes.
So,
It really does. It even helps utilize the nutrition and the supplements that these people are putting into the horses. So and I think as practitioners, we have to think of that bigger picture than just this can make your barrel horse run faster or whatever. So much about the total well-being of the horse. And for John and I, John, what am I thinking about? Dr. Brown. In the very beginning of John and I working with pull centers, we actually were going and doing demonstrations and selling to human chiropractors. And we were called out. Where was that little town, John? In Ohio? Was it somewhere in Ohio?
Yeah.
That we drove out with our...
Central Ohio.
And Dr. Brown was well into his 70s. He had been in practice longer than you, Mark. He took us into his office that literally had a 10 by 20 wall of files, floor to ceiling. And his kids were like, they didn't want him to invest in this. They're like, what are you talking about, Dad? At this stage, you're going to be investing $30,000? And he took us in and he said, you know what? I cannot help the chronic inflammation and pain of the people reflected in these files on this wall.
Wow.
And this can. And there was someone so open-minded at his age, and it was an amazing experience. Where he actually ended up thanking us and saying that through us, he will be helping literally hundreds of people, maybe even thousands, so that's really cool. So that really hit home to us. If people are open-minded and I very highly respect chiropractic and chiropractors.
Sherry, definitely the word is getting out there. Can anybody hear me or no?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we can all hear you. Yeah.
I think a real important concept to kind of keep in the forebrain is dollar cost benefit. So in the forebrain, dollar cost benefit. Why? Because I have a challenge when I talk with people that are thinking about Pemfing or they have already purchased. I tell them, if you can come up with a better way to spend your dollar, a way that helps to, modify your health profile, your individual health, and has such far-reaching consequences. If you find something better, I want to know about it. And I'll tell you, if I find something better, I'm going to be on the phone to you right yesterday.
Yep.
You follow me?
Yep. And that's actually what I've said to a lot of really serious upper-level trainers is that, you've done the best nutrition you can, you're doing the best riding you can, you've done the best instruction, you got the best nutrition. What else are you going to do that's going to be able to dramatically affect the performance of your horse than this? And, when they hear that, they're like, and then as far as, the comparing us to chiropractors, and in week, I think it is week 8, we go through in depth our PMF, what is all the difference, a comparative analysis of the whole industry, not only, low intensity versus high intensity, lasers, chiropractic, the whole bit, but you can say, what I always said is that, there's 700 muscles and there's 200 bones. Chiropractors are just dealing with a skeletal issue of the bones. If you're trying to affect a soft tissue issue, you're not going to do it by adjusting the skeletal. So, and that usually really rings home with the trainers, because they understand, my horse's skeleton is probably okay. If it's not okay, well, you really know it. But what it is it's the muscles and the tendons and the ligaments. That's where the issues are. And, that's where modern medicine just does not have a tool in their tool bag to be able to affect a person's health. So that is where PMF's niche is and unique.
What do you find that you want to do? Do you want them to pulse before you adjust or after?
It's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Like I said, if you go before, then the adjustment happens so much easier. If you go after, the adjustment seems to stay longer, and there's not that post-adjustment stiffness. So I've seen it come. I see it work really well both ways.
Can I introduce? Can I say something?
Yeah.
Regarding that. So what I have found is sometimes by using the PEMF before stretching, massage, and mobilization, or doing an adjustment, it helps. It helps to kind of get the blood going, right, and get the body relaxed. And then what I found, this is amazing, absolutely amazing. After the adjustment, I'll go back and I'll redo the Pemf, and all of a sudden they're feeling so much more, like the sensory nerves are awake and the blood is much better, and they're going, I'm getting it now deep, and it feels so much better. Thank you for doing the pre and the post Pemf.
Yeah,
so value to that.
That is a good comparison. Yeah.
So I'm just reading here. I'm just going to read Becky Catlett. Hi, Becky. She's saying we have a great relationship with the local equine chiro. He'll have me do the session before, he'll adjust and then point out where he thinks we need to work. He is very good at working with me. Much more progress working together than not. In fact, he will tell them to have me do more sessions. If I think we need another adjustment, then I'll call him back. That's so great to have created a relationship like that, Becky.
Yeah, that's
and then Teresa is sharing with us that's wonderful. And that Teresa's sharing with us, my personal endurance horse lives outside full time with run-in sheds. Yay! Like a real horse. She gets plenty of time off in between rides, as well as PMF and chiro. I feel bad for most show horses live in a stall. My horse is spoiled. And I'm so happy for your horse, and I wish that was the norm for more horses. But, unfortunately...
What was that?
She's what? I'm sorry.
I said my horse, she also lives in a small herd because we have technically 5 endurance horses. Shiloh, my best friend's oldest horse, he's 27. He has 5,500 logged endurance miles. He just got the AERC, American Endurance Riders Conference, Horse of the Year. He carried 21 different people into endurance.
Wow.
He's won national championships. He is an inspiration to the endurance world. I have been pulsing him pretty regularly, and we went out Saturday for his last fox hunt of the season. I got to ride him because they said, do you want to ride your dragon or old man? I said, I want the old man. So I rolled old man, and I pulsed him before we went out, and I think I made a mistake because he acted like a 2-year-old and was all over the place. He was raring to go. I mean, he wanted to go chase the hounds. He didn't want to stop. He's never felt that good in his whole entire life in the last 5 years.
Oh, that's great.
But
That's
anyway,
great.
John, that's a great story. But it just, do you remember when we were in Spruce Meadows and we pulsed that lady's horse? And remember, she was like I don't know, she was like an older lady doing amateur jumpers. And then we came back the next day to say, hey, how did you do? And the horse had literally gone so fast. She almost, like, it was like a different horse. Like, do you remember that story, John?
Yeah.
Which one I'm talking about?
I think she like almost bucked her. He
And
almost
she's like,
bucked her off or something like that. Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know if I want to pulse him again. He was more than I could handle.
Yeah.
But so think about what that horse must have been feeling like. And then it would have been feeling so good to make such a difference. So
exactly.
That's crazy.
I love
great.
pulsing older horses.
That's crazy.
They do show amazing signs, especially if you got a real athlete like that. You know, when you pulse an older horse or an older dog, they usually just see great responses, and especially if you can break through those chronic sorenesses that they have. My old girl that was in the videos, she has a lot of show miles and a lot of standing in the stall, and she's out there in the pasture now with her buddy Flora, and she absolutely loves being out there. But it took a while to get through the chronic injuries and the chronic sorenesses. But
yes,
she'll prance around now like a little dressage horse.
Yeah.
Oh, and I recently found something that I added into the PEMF manual, into the section it's the section with the acupuncture points. I found a senior strengthening acupuncture points. So look for it. It's specific points that you can pulse a senior horse, that will help strengthen and energize them. So everybody check that out. Maybe I'll try to remember to share that.
That'd be a good one, just to have a
group
post.
too.
Yeah, that'd be a good little post, separate post.
Yeah. I'll share that.
I
It was so great seeing Mark. I haven't seen Mark before, so that was great seeing Mark.
Well, always working.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. So I'm sorry, Elizabeth. Go ahead.
I just also, this past weekend, I was at like a little vendor event. I just kind of went to support my I brought my stuff, and somebody asked me, was kind of explain this.
I think you're cutting out.
Oops, you're cutting out.
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, you're better.
Yes.
I brought up the analogy that you said, Sherry, in Jumpstart, about us seeing our houses at the beach because we're right with Earth's magnetic field, and that resonated with her as far as yeah, I really do feel the happiest there, and I feel the most relaxed, and I just kind of that. So it was something that, you know, as with normal horse people, you don't really think about it, but it made her realize and say, well, I'm going to call you. My husband's a disabled veteran. And I was like, okay.
That's great.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And what Elizabeth is talking about is, in our jump starts, we talked about that if you think about how you feel when you're at the beach or by a waterfall, one of the reasons that we are drawn to these places and we feel so good there is because of the motion of the water. They're an area of high electromagnetic energy. And so it's kind of funny, as humans, without thinking about it, we're very drawn to those areas. We all express feeling good and relaxed and zen. And there's actually a kind of a scientific reason, you know, which is what PEMF is recreating. So that's what Elizabeth was So any other questions or comments, or Teresa, has this been helping you? Have you learned since you, because you haven't been to a jump start or gone to training
Yeah, I've
before.
learned some stuff.
Okay.
A lot of it is
Good.
the basic stuff. The stuff that I'm really interested in is getting into the marketing, the business, retaining those relationships, how to introduce myself, because I'm a very overpowering person. I'm very, like, I don't know, people call me, like, I'm like a bull in a china shop. And I can sometimes be too much, so I need to learn to dial that back. I know that. I got to work on that. And then I also have the reverse. I have that fear of just going out and, like, you know, introducing myself to people, which is crazy because I'm a very social person. But when it comes to new things and introducing people to the therapy, I get kind of weirded out. So I need help with that. But other than that, I absolutely love it. I've known about this technology for over 10 years. Like you guys, my first experience was MagnaWave. Absolutely loved it. And about 5 years ago, I thought about buying a system, and I didn't do it because I just couldn't make that leap. Then I bought a house, got out of my long-term relationship, and I said, hell with it. What the hell? Just buy the machine, because it's been something I've been wanting to do for probably now 10 years. So here I am, struggling, but being positive. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Struggling,
absolutely.
but positive.
So,
We have a whole section on the 50
okay.
ways to market your business, and we'll talk a lot about that.
I've been going to that section and watching and jotting stuff down. And I'm going to go ride my horse tomorrow. We're going to do a 16-mile training ride, then I'm going to pull some. So, you know, very important to me that my horse gets the optimal care, because we're going into our first ever 100-mile ride in June. And it'll be her first, my second, and of course I have to pick the hardest ride in the country, the Old Dominion 100.
Sounds fun.
Oh, wow. Well, good luck to you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to share just a couple ideas. I want to share a couple ideas with you that
Yes.
It's so funny when we started out as practitioners, and John will attest to this. I felt the same way. I'm a very social person. I'm very passionate about this, but there's just something about that initial just walking up to somebody I don't know that is uncomfortable for me. Fortunately, I had John, who could talk to anybody anywhere. So he could go up and start it, and once the conversation got going, I'd come from behind his shoulder and be like, blah, 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 you know. But what helped me for those times that I didn't have John to hide behind was thinking about myself in the barn. Okay, so thinking about myself being there with my dear Flora, and if some person came up to me to tell me about something that could help my horse, I would want to know about it. I would want someone to come and talk to me. And if I wasn't interested, I would politely say, hey, thank you, but I'm not interested. And that would be it. So if you stop for a moment and put yourself in the shoes or boots, I guess, of these people that you're approaching at the show, and just thinking, you know, we're all just people. We're all just trying our best. Yeah, you're going to meet a few jerks. Yeah, so what? John will be next. You know, just like people that look at you and start rolling their eyes. You know what? Next. You have to go out there with the belief that you are our practitioner prayer that I posted in the community, and we started saying that's what really helped us our first year down in Wellington is, whatever your beliefs are, thank you God or the universe or whatever, thank you for, attracting or bringing to me the people that want, need, can easily afford, and will be dramatically helped by what I have to offer. And if you just stop for a moment and still yourself and really make that intention, say, you know what, I really want to go out and help somebody. I want to go out and help a horse. I just want to go out and do that. And you just pause and you say that prayer and you go out and you'll be amazed that who somehow will be magically drawn to you that you'll talk to that'll be really nice and it'll help you and give you some confidence. If not, if you bump into that crusty crab, you just got to brush it off. And I'm sure at some point John's going to tell his bee story. It's usually during the marketing thing, but we have given up trying to persuade people. There are going to be people that are just closed books. There are going to be people that are open a little bit. And then there's going to be people like me who are like wide open. Hey, I want to learn about things. It's all good. And you just have to trust that the universe is going to guide you to the right people at the right time that need you. And then the second thing I'm going to add that helped me immensely was sales is about telling stories, you know, and that's why I so encourage us to all like each other's Facebook pages, pay attention to each other's stories, because Mark's success story could become a story that you share with someone. You know, it doesn't all have to be your story. It could be like, hey, you know, my world is endurance, but boy, one of our practitioners works on these jumper horses and Tryon, and oh my God, the results that they've had. Or here's a particular story about Will Simpson and what he says. It's, if you really think about it, not like I'm going to do sales, but I'm going to share stories. You know what I mean? You've said for 10 years this has intrigued you. It's because you've heard stories, you've seen experiences. This is the best advice I can give to people that are uncomfortable with this. Put yourself in the shoes of the person in that barn and think, would I want somebody to come tell me about this? And would I want to hear those stories, you know, and that I can share stories. It just takes a lot of the pressure off. And sometimes you're talking to somebody in the barn that maybe, I mean, and we've had this happen, right, John? That maybe they're not interested, but they just open the door a little bit. And then they'll say, oh, but I think this could help so-and-so. And they'll tell them about it, or they give you their number, or they'll contact you. Or It's kind of amazing how when you just, and again, I was just going to say another thing that I was thinking about on the drive home from having to drop off at Oliver's baseball game. First ever baseball game for Oliver, 7 years old, and Sam is calling us. He's into art, and this is so out of his comfort zone. You know, this is like so far out of his comfort zone. But you know what? The definition of bravery and courage is being afraid but do it anyway. And what happens is when you're afraid but you do it anyway, you realize that fear wall is really invisible, and your boundaries just keep expanding. I've experienced it myself, and I saw it just tonight in little Oliver at this baseball game, because this was so out of his comfort zone, you guys. This was so, but you know, I could just see him pushing himself out there. And then when he was running back from the field, there was like a smile on his face. When he was running out to not even knowing where to go out in the outfield, he was like, I could just see this on his face. And then a ball came to him, and he picked it up and he threw it. And when he was running back to the dugout, there was a big smile on his face. So I'm just telling you all, we are all capable of so much more than the world wants us to believe, or we're led to believe, or conditioned to believe. And if you just push yourself just a little bit, and I know, Elizabeth, you've had to do this a lot. I know. And I've seen you grow as a person and a practitioner through this. I'm telling you, you're going to be amazed at what you find on the outside of that invisible wall. So,
Okay.
And we're going to talk way more about it. But you can do it. This was our thing. This was our thing when our boys were playing baseball. You can do it.
You can do it.
So, anyway.
Thank you.
All right, we're over our time, honey.
Great, Teresa. Elizabeth's saying something. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Jerry.
those people.
Elizabeth, are you there?
Can you hear me? Woo. Is it better?
You're better now.
Yep, better now.
Better now.
Last one.
How was the practice? I was.
John,
John's tired.
John wants his cookies.
No, we can't hear you. Now we can't hear you.
I'll put it in the thing. The chat.
Okay.
And then we're going to wrap it up. Yep, I think it's cookie time.
Yeah, but
I'm tired.
yeah, cookies.
Yeah,
It's been a great
Elizabeth,
program.
you seem like you're live now. Well, wait, Elizabeth had something to share. Okay, you guys.
We're
So
waiting.
I know. Can you hear me?
yep. Yeah, you're going
Yes.
good now.
Okay, I just also, as far as Teresa saying how to get people, I was one of the people that said I don't need PMF. I do chiropractic, I do acupuncture, and I don't need it. My horse was then at a show a month later. My horse got hurt, and I said, I'll do whatever it takes. And I saw it work for my horse, and I was hooked. So, you know, it might just take that one time when that person's horse gets hurt, and then they say, oh my God, and it opens them up.
Yep. A lot of times it is timing.
Yeah,
All right,
it's
that's great, everybody.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Sherry.
Have a nice evening.
Everybody. All right. Oh, so April 2nd is Christina. April 23rd is Kelly with the dogs. And we'll put on the post, the Facebook group about when the marketing is. But you guys go out there and
marketing, I have marketing April 9th.
April 9th.
Is marketing. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yay.
we're on
And I
this
just
side.
wanted to say I just wanted to say that we truly, truly love you all. We're grateful for you being here, and happy pulsing. Thank you for sharing PMF with the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
See you next week.
Good
Good night.
night.